Question 14. Given that sine of alpha equals 5 over 13, where alpha is in quadrant 2, and cos of beta equals 2/5, where beta is in quadrant 4, find the exact value of cosine of alpha plus beta. So this is from our identities unit, and right away we want to use the formula that is on our formula sheet. I personally think you should have this memorized, but if you don't, take a quick look at your formula sheet and do the expansion. So cosine of alpha plus beta equals cosine of alpha times cosine of beta minus sine of alpha sine of beta. So in this question, we have two angles. We have an alpha angle, which is in quadrant 2, and it's very generous for them to give us exactly where it is. Sometimes we've got to think about that. But so I'm going to draw the alpha angle first. So the alpha angle is in quadrant 2. So I'll put it this way. And right, this is alpha. So if we make our triangle, it should be a right triangle. So it's 5 over 13. So opposite is 5. Hypotenuse is 13. And this actually is a 5, 12, 13 triangle. You could find the 12 by using Pythagoras if you so desire. But 13 squared is 169. 5 squared is 25. 169 minus 25 is 144. The square root of 144 is 12. That's a mouthful. So what ratios do we want to get out of this picture? Well, we have our sine ratio. Our sine, I'll write it out again, but our sine of alpha is 5 over 13. And now cos of alpha is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's 12 over 13, but do not forget the negative because of quadrant 2. All students take calculus. So sine is positive, but cosine is negative. So far we got the sine of alpha and the cos of alpha. And over on the next part of this, I'll draw the beta angle where it's in quadrant 4. So beta angle in quadrant 4. So our beta angle in quadrant 4 coming down, always back to the x-axis when you're making these right angles. And we always start from the origin. So cosine of alpha is 2/5. So the adjacent is 2. The hypotenuse is 5. And now we got to figure out that height there. So I'll just call it y. Y squared plus 2 squared equals 5 squared. And I don't think this is a nice ratio. So y squared equals 4. Sorry, y squared plus 4 equals 25. So y squared, subtract 4 from both sides, is 21. Y is plus or minus root 21. So because we're talking about distance, I'll put in just the root 21. And we want to, again, remember quadrant when we do these ratios. All students take calculus. So let's write out the one we were given initially. That is the sine of alpha. Sorry, my mistake. That is the cosine of beta, which is 2/5. And then we want to do the sine of beta. And because it's in quadrant 4, it will be negative. So it's root 21 over 5. With a negative in front. Don't forget the negative. So now we have all the information we need. And we're basically going to want to substitute in these 4 values. in the appropriate places. Now, here is the most important thing. You replace cos of alpha with the ratio. You don't say cos of, well, so let's see, right? So cos of alpha. We don't say cos of negative 12 over 13. We replace cos of alpha with negative 12 over 13. So in its place, we write in the negative 12 over 13. This is multiplication, so put brackets around it. Now we look at for cos of beta. It's 2/5. So we write in 2/5. And now we're subtracting, because that's part of the formula. Now we look for sine of alpha. Sine of alpha is 5 over 13. So we write in 5 over 13. Again, don't write sine of 5 over 13. You do not take the sine of a ratio. Lastly, sine of beta. Sine of beta is negative 21 over 5. So we got root 21 over 5. And remember, how do we multiply fractions? Top times top, bottom times bottom. So this becomes negative 24. 13 times 5 is 65. And now the two negatives will give us a positive. So I'm going to just change this to a plus. And then it's 5 root 21 over 65. So expressing this as a final answer, we'll write it as negative 24 plus 5 root 21. And we already have a common denominator, all over 65. Now for question B. Question B is much simpler. It's only worth a mark as well. But our first step is the same. Use your formula sheet. So sine of 2 alpha is equal to 2 sine alpha times cos of alpha. And again, we got all these values up above. So the 2 is a constant. We could see that the sine of alpha is 5 over 13. And the cos of alpha is negative 12 over 13. So how do we multiply fractions? Top times top times top when we have 3 of them. So 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times negative 12 is negative 120. And 1 times 13 is 13. 13 times 13 is 169. So the answer here is negative 120 over 169.